Obsessed fans, I know that you know that I am obsessed with the Enneagram. It is an obsession of mine that I can never go to sleep without thinking about the Enneagram. And as of late, I have been taking this amazing course on the Enneagram by Dr. Tom LaHue, who is leading the course. And I have two of my classmates with me. I want you guys to really understand the Enneagram. I want you to take a little bit of a dive into knowing more about yourself, knowing how you navigate your life, and knowing who the people are around you as well. It is a tool that can get into the minds of other people. You can understand how to navigate all your relationships. If you master the Enneagram, you will be the master of the universe, is what I say. And I have Dr. Tom LaHue here, but I first want to say hi to my co-hosts of the week, Terry Bales and Brittany Finley. Hey girls.
Hi.
Look at that. They said that in unison. I love it. They are just ready. We just got off from class number 3 or 4. Was it 4? 4. We're just wrapped up our fourth class in the series with Dr. Tom. And you guys need to check out the show notes because Dr. Tom is going to blow your mind. I'm going to kind of let my new co-hosts, Terry and Brittany, just do a little investigative work with Dr. Tom. So thank you and welcome, Dr. Tom.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm so
Yay.
glad to be on
Whee!
the episode today. So, what questions do you guys have, or what do you want to talk about in relation to the Enneagram?
What is the Enneagram? Can you give us an overview first for those that don't know what the Enneagram is?
Well, the Enneagram is a personality profile system that challenges us by helping us to see ourselves in a new light and shows us a little bit of what we look like when we're under stress and what we look like when things are going well, kind of what we might aspire to be. And ultimately, it's a way to be more present to life and more compassionate with ourselves and with others, and to really hopefully live the best life we can live. So the simple answer is it's a personality profile, but of course it does get under your skin, like Julie's mentioning, and kind of digs away at what motivates us, and that can be quite challenging at times.
All right. So, if you wouldn't mind, would you be willing to share just a little information about each of those 9 types? Maybe if you could give us one word on a healthy high side of each type, and maybe one word for the lower, more challenging side of each type?
Sure, yeah. Well, let's start with one. A one is called the hang on a second. I'm looking for this little file here on my computer that'll help. Okay. So a one, is we think of
You
them
don't
as
know
being
this
the
by heart, Dr. Tom?
yeah,
Come on,
well,
let's be
I
real.
I
You're
just
teaching a class?
yeah, I know. I just happened to have this little meme that I did a video on recently on YouTube. And so it was really good. It was just kind of like it was exactly what you asked for. It was like, here's 2 words under stress, here's 2 words in growth. And so when you think about like a one, for example, a perfectionist, reformer, the moralist, the person who wants to do the right thing, when they're not doing very well, they can look a little bit like a 4, maybe irrational, moody, emotional, pity party. When things are going well, they look a little bit more like a 7. So spontaneous, joyful, upbeat, positive. And there's one. Do you want me to go ahead and go into the 2? Or okay. So two's the giver, the helper, the befriender, the connector. When they're not doing so well, they can look a little bit like the unhealthy side of an 8, aggressive, dominating, and I think not always in a bad way, like just bigger than themselves. When they're under stress, they tend to swell up and get bigger to meet their demands or meet the crisis in front of them. When twos are doing really well, they integrate to type 4, becoming more self-nurturing and more emotionally aware, better able to take care of themselves, asking themselves like, who am I? And it's okay for me to be a person separate from all these people I'm connected to. Who am I? Do I even like country music? What is it I like? They spend so much time caring about others, they might kind of forsake themselves a little bit. Threes, the achiever, the performer. When they're not doing well, they can look a little bit like that withdrawn 9, disengaged, apathetic, not seeing what the goal is, or not staying motivated any longer. When they're doing really well, they look like a 6 in that they become more cooperative, more committed. And I always say the most valuable player becomes captain of the team. And when threes can do that, when they can transition from needing to prove their worth and value to bringing worth and value to others and encouraging people and challenging them to be more than they believe themselves to be, then that's when threes are really bringing something great. Fours, the individualist, the romantic, the healer, great word for fours, because a lot of fours don't see that. When you're not doing well as a four, you're the sick one and you're the broken one, the infirmed one. But when fours are doing well, they become the opposite of that. They become the healers on the Enneagram. When they're not doing well, they can look a little bit like a two, clingy, needy, over involved, stressed that the relationship is broken and they need to patch things up and renew their connections. When fours are doing really well, they can integrate to a one, becoming more principled, more objective, focused on just doing what needs to be done in spite of what they might be feeling. Like I need to set my feelings aside for a minute. They're true and they are a part of me, but I need to just focus on doing the right thing in front of me right now and being productive. Fives, the investigator. I always say fours want to be different and fives actually are. Fives, they kind of march to the beat of their own drum, following their interests, and a little bit like the submarine beneath the surface of the water. They can become a little scatterbrained and hyperactive like sevens, bouncing around like Tigger, unfocused, without a lot of direction, feeling like they need some information beyond them that they don't have when they're not doing well. When they're doing well, they integrate to an eight. So think they become more assertive and they become more like a challenger, challenging people with their accurate information, challenging people with their objective information, more decisive, more self-confident. Sixes, the loyal skeptic, the sweet and sour one, the sweet and spicy one, they can sometimes turn on a dime. They give loyalty because they want loyalty from others. And sixes, when they're not doing well, can disintegrate to a three, becoming more competitive, maybe more arrogant, and really feeling like they've got to outrun everything that's after them. They've got to get ahead of this, like a three. They got to prove their worth. Don't fire me. And then sixes, when they're doing well, look like a nine. Winnie the Pooh. The piglet becomes Winnie the Pooh. They become more relaxed, more optimistic, realizing that I've done everything I can do. Now I'm just going to have to leave it in God's hands and hope for the best. And then you'll know they're doing well. They're okay. Sevens, like ourselves, Julie, Brittany, and myself, sevens, the enthusiast, the obsessed one, the excited one. When we're not doing so well, we become more like a one, frustrated, irritated, critical, perfectionistic. This isn't the kind of, I want to have fun, but not like this. And when sevens are doing well, they integrate to a five, becoming more focused, able to say less is more. I don't need everything that I think I need. I can become content and I don't need to raise the energy so much. I should be able to control my energy more. Think like that seven bouncing around as a child, the undisciplined child, being able to like slow down and focus our attention. If we did that as kids, the teacher would say, wow, Tommy has really matured because he's not as impulsive as he used to be.
I was always in the corner, Dr. Tom. I just have to say that, like always. They called me the
Yeah.
chatterbox. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, and sevens are going to get in trouble as kids and they're not going to know what they even did. They're going to be in trouble for talking. Like I thought I was helping. The teacher was reading a story and it was kind of boring. I was adding to it, and everybody seemed to be laughing. And somehow I'm in the principal's office.
It doesn't make sense at all.
No, I thought we were friends. The teacher and I, weren't we friends? But apparently we're not.
My teachers loved me, but they always put me in the corner. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So, and now your job is to do what you used to get in trouble for doing, talking.
I know, right? That's interesting, actually. Thank you,
Yeah.
Mrs. Quick. Thank you, Mrs. Quick.
Right.
Eileen.
Okay, eight's the
Weren't we
challenger,
friends?
the
Apparently we're not.
mafia, the culture of the
My
mafia,
teachers
the
loved me,
boss.
but they always
The eight, when they're not doing well, can withdraw like a five, and the castle walls go up. The fort becomes a castle, and they become more fearful, more secretive, more investigative. When did you know this? How come you didn't call me? Where were you? And then also just done, just detached, cold, icy, and just done when they're not doing well. And when they withdraw like that, it's probably best to let them withdraw and get some space. When they're doing well, they look like a two. They become compliant. They give, they make friends, they move toward people to empower them and to help them become more caring and more open hearted. And that can be hard when vulnerability is tough for you, but they can become more vulnerable. Nines, the peacemaker, the advisor, the referee, the dreamer. There's so many names for nines. Nines, when they're not doing well, become anxious and worried like a six, looking for external support. Does this make sense? Okay, I won't make any decisions unless all of us give our input in. They'll be more like sixes in that. And then when things are going well, they look a little bit like a three, energetic, self developing, goal oriented, moving towards something, owning their life, and setting goals for themselves.
I love it. I I became obsessed with the Enneagram when I met Julie as my life coach, and she shared with us this thing called the Enneagram. We'd really never heard of it. And I'm a two. And when I read the description of what a two was, I was like, they have a camera in my house and they've written it about me. It is that spot on. And Dr. Tom, I found you on YouTube, and I listen to you all the time. Your words are always insightful. And I was very grateful that I shared it with Julie and Brittany, and they said, hey, we're taking this Enneagram certificate class. And I was like, okay, I'm in. I love it. I have learned so much more through your certificate class in the past 4 weeks, not just about me, but my lines of integration and how to be more balanced. And I am absolutely loving it. And I'm just always grateful
You're
to
being kind of
learn
flirty.
more.
You're kind of being flirty right now, Terry.
Yeah, well,
Well, and that's one of the criticisms of twos, right? Is that they're just being themselves. They're just being nice and kind. It's just the rest of us are so terrible that when we see a nice person, we're like, wow, this person must be interested in me because they're friendly.
I mean, that is one thing. I mean, I'm a very friendly person, and it has been taken the wrong way more than once, and it will continue to be taken the wrong way. But the great thing is I'm who I am, and I'm just gonna keep being me.
Yeah. And just own it and say, I'm sorry, I love people. I'm a two.
There you go.
I had an appointment with a lady who was a two, and I didn't know she was a two.
The helper for
But
our
yeah,
listeners. Yeah, the
yeah,
helper.
right. I had an appointment with a lady, and she came to see me about her marriage, and she didn't know, she never heard the Enneagram before ever. And she just started to unpack the pain of her marriage. And within 10 minutes of her talking, I knew this lady's a two. My wife's a two. So I was like, I know she's a two. I can just tell by the stuff that's bothering her is the stuff that bothers twos. She didn't sound like an eight. She didn't sound like a seven. She sounded like a two. And so I interrupted her. I'd never done this like before with somebody. I was like, can I interrupt you for just a second? She's like, get tears in her eyes. I'm like, can I interrupt you for just a second? Can I go off subject for just a minute? I want to tell you about the Enneagram. I know it's going to sound crazy, but I just want to tell you about it. And I told her about type twos. And I just started talking about what type twos are. And the tears began to flow. And you know what she said to me? She said, I'm not crazy. I was like, no, you're not crazy. You're a two. And the stuff that bothers you, like not feeling loved or cared about, you don't feel like you're a priority, you don't feel valued, you're not crazy at all. I mean, and the people around you, hopefully they'll help you with this, but you're a two feeling the stuff twos feel.
I mean, there's something so validating about knowing that you are a type, and it's actually something that other people study, and that there's so many other people like you. I was like, oh, you don't feel so odd or disconnected from everybody else.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. It's like all of a sudden, all the things that you've thought or wondered or questioned, things start to make sense. And that was a light bulb moment for me. Very one specific thing in my description about, how I was reacting, because that's when I learned about the Enneagram was ultimately through my divorce. And I kind of wish that in my divorce decree, I could have put that he had to take the Enneagram so I could have seen what I was working with, and learn more about it. But I always say like this, there
Oh,
is.
wait, that's like something you could do to like divorce like when people are going through divorces, seriously, and then how
We
to
Deconstruction.
offer
navigate it.
divorce coaching. We'll start doing that.
Yes, that's a
We
good
don't. We're
thing.
not. We're not. We're not advertising divorce coaching here. But let me just say,
Right.
in this,
Yeah, we
but
are,
in
Brittany
this, I
Finley.
said, there's a piece of the pie. There's a whole pie, and I didn't know how much of the pie that I owned in my divorce until I looked at the Enneagram, and I could look internally and see, because I was so used to giving, 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 and giving, that I became somebody I didn't know anymore. And it was so eye-opening. And that is why I'm obsessed with it, because I know through the Enneagram, I've personally become a better, more observant to myself, and, a better, more rounded person. And that's why I've for lack of a better word, fallen in love with you and your YouTubes and your certificate class.
You're
There's
flirting again. I'm telling his wife.
Hey, bring it on, because she knows. She already knows.
Yeah. That was just a constant problem I had in high school. Was I just I just learned
Getting
to live
flirted
with
with.
it. Yeah, I just learned to live with it. Anyway,
Um,
no, and I appreciate it. I'm glad that you guys, especially Terry, I'm glad that you found help in those videos, because it really does. It helps us understand, like, what upsets us and why it upsets us, and how to be more compassionate. If I know, for example, that my wife is a 2, then that should change how I interact with her. I should realize, like, okay, there's going to be things that make her feel uncomfortable or bothered or nervous that would never bother me. And when it bothers her, I can't always predict it. I don't want to walk on eggshells. I can't always predict those things. But when she comes to me with a problem, or I can see she's upset, I can be more sympathetic to it and realize, okay, this wouldn't be a big deal for me, but I'm not a 2. I don't, I always think of it like this. Imagine that there is oil underneath your ground, like you own a farm and you have this oil under your ground. I didn't put the oil there, but when I'm digging in that soil and the oil comes up, I'm going to be blamed for causing that. I'm going to be blamed for that. And I didn't put those fears in you. The Enneagram shows us like the things that we're afraid of. It shows us our fears, our worst fears. And then when I come along and I stick my shovel in the ground and turn the soil, and those fears come up, and she feels unloved or uncared for because of the way I said something, or because I didn't think to ask her to sit on the couch with me while I was watching TV, that fear is going to come up, and she's going to feel like I caused it. And I think, how did I didn't cause that fear. I literally just sat down and watched TV. I wasn't thinking of you. And that's going to make that fear even worse, right? Of course, you don't think about me. That's the whole problem. And so I can be more sympathetic with, like, okay, this person, if I know what their type is, I want to be compassionate with them and how I interact with them.
Just think of how much better the world would be in the communication world if we understood people better and how to work with them. Because I think that's the thing that is really the communication. People just don't communicate well anymore. And we've lost that art. And so I really feel that this is next level of learning how to communicate and empathize and understand people better.
Yes, for
Great,
sure.
Terry. Yeah, and I do. I have a question. Sorry, trying to honor my 7 of wanting to speak. So I was loving what Terry was saying, and Dr. Tom, I of course also became obsessed with you, learning about myself. and all of these pieces. But I think one of the things that in what Terry was saying and what we're connecting here is that to learn more about yourself and to be a healthier version, because the Enneagram can be a lot of that scary stuff that we don't like to talk about. The truth is self-awareness. And is there somewhere that you would recommend for a lot of our listeners? Because, we're talking about things called these lines of integration and how a healthy this number looks like another number. Is there a place that you would recommend for our listeners where, if they don't know where to start, where they should start? Is it about learning about themselves? Is it watching your YouTube videos? What's a good place for them to begin to learn that process?
Yeah, I think exactly what you mentioned is, not all of us take in information the same way. And, I think knowing yourself enough to know, like, I like listening to podcasts, and obviously your audience does, or I like watching YouTube videos. So that works for me. I can do, or while I'm driving. Some people love to read, and they've got the time to read, and so, okay, just start with something like, Beatrice Chestnut's book, The Enneagram Guide to Waking Up. Fantastic place to start. Or Ian Cron's book, The Road Back to You. Very good, easy to read, good places to start. But yeah, start with your own type. I mean, I think it's most natural for most of us to be like, oh wow, I think I found my type. If you need help with that, obviously, there's coaching appointments, or if you stay with it long enough, you'll figure it out. If I start with my own type, and then if I figure out my wife's type is, or my kids, the people that are important to me, just don't stop there. A lot of people stop at what you might say the construction phase. Like, I want to see how my personality is constructed. Oh, I'm a 7. I like to have fun. I like to be entertained. I like to entertain others. I like to feel good and positive. And then they kind of stop there. Don't stop there. Keep going, and understand the other 8 types. Learn as much as you can about all 9 types, and learn the system. And that can feel overwhelming at first, but you want to start to learn how this system works, how the lines work, because in a sense, we borrow from all of the other types. We certainly interact with all the other types, and we want to have positive interactions with people. So I would say, start with your own type, see how your personality is constructed, and then learn the other types, and try to talk about it with people. Find people in your world that will allow you to have these conversations, and realize not everybody's going to be interested in this at first. Ignorance is bliss, and the more you know, I know Solomon says, with much knowledge comes much pain. And if you guys have ever read about diseases, you end up feeling like you have them all. And so when you start to learn more, try to find some people in your life, or your family, hopefully, that will have conversations. And then what will happen is you'll start watching TV shows and movies, and you'll say, I think that guy's an 8. I think that person's a 9. And as you start to fill in those gaps, and as you figure out what your family members are, for example, your coworkers, realize now, as you're interacting with people, you're always learning about the Enneagram. Because, for example, one of my daughters is a 6, one of my daughters is a 9, one of my daughters is an 8, one of my daughters is a 4, my son's a 5, my wife's a 2.
Wait, how many kids do you have, Dr.
We
Tom?
have
A lot of
5.
kids. Holy cow,
5
you beat me.
kids. Yes, yes. Well, I mean, and so we're always learning about the types, because they surround us, and we live with them, and we work with them, and we watch them on television shows. And so you're constantly learning. And, we find ourselves in our home pausing the TV and laughing, because look at what that 7 did, or what that 5 did. That's what I do, or that's what you do. Or, we see ourselves in these characters sometimes. One of the hardest things for me to watch is The Office. I love it, but I watch it, I think, oh my goodness, I'm so much like Michael Scott, because he's a 7. And and I think, oh, is that what I look like? Do I do that? I do that, don't I? And my son's a 5,
That's what she
white.
says.
Yeah, that's what she, yeah. My son's a 5, and there's a couple of 5s on the show. And so you see yourself sort of in these characters. And that's kind of the challenge, is who's underneath this character, because there's a person with a personality. I don't want to lose sight of the person beneath the personality.
One of the things that I know we were talking earlier about, that I learned the Enneagram through Julie during my divorce, when I started dating I'm not kidding you. If you made it to date 2, you were already doing the Enneagram test because I didn't know how to like look at people and figure out what their types were. I'm like, hey, I'm really sorry. This is going to be like a lot of questions over and over and over, but I need to know your type. I need to know, like, is this really going to work? What's going on? Because I
That's
always
so
felt
weird, Terry, first of all, that, like, of course I facilitated this, but like thinking about these guys that you're giving this test to, and the one that stuck, right? Tim, so he's a 6.
Yeah. The
Yeah,
interview.
right.
You had to pass the interview first.
no, really. No, really. It's funny because I always thought that the number that worked best with me was a 9. I don't know, just because they're the peacemaker. And then it's funny, then Tim is a 6 and his line is to a 9. That was my aha since we've been on this since we've been doing this podcast today. It's like, oh, see, and his best self, he is a 9. So see, I'm still connected to the 9. It's what works. But I think it just opens it up that you're not looking at someone as a number, but you're looking at them as this really is a little bit more like them, and looking deeper into them and how you work well together. And if there was conflict, I have a friend who's an 8, and man, it's challenging sometimes. And now I get to look at an 8 differently, of not like that's an aggressive situation that's coming through, but like they're positive traits of their number. That's what I've learned through the certificate course too, is learning more about other people. And I just love how you've personally opened up my eyes to looking at people differently, and not judging them, because I think we're in a society of judgment, and now we can look at people for who they are and how they think. Because I mean, not everybody's gonna be, hey, do you need help packing up your house? Because I'm that girl. I always have boxes in my garage ready to go. You need help packing up your
Guys,
house?
get that. If you need help, 1-800 Terry
Yeah.
moves
Right. Yeah.
houses.
I can't tell you how many times I've helped somebody pack their house. And not only did I help her pack her house, then I flew back out to the East Coast and drove her to Texas.
That would be Anna. Shout out
That
to
would
Anna.
be Anna. Yep, sure did.
And I know Brittany, I'm not sure what her partner is. We know Brittany is a 7, but are we naturally drawn to
My
certain
partner's a
types?
3.
Oh, he
My
is a
partner's
3.
a 3. Yes.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
He tried to deny that he's a 3 because he
3 is
has some
great.
7s in there as well. But I finally read to him what a 3 is, and he goes, oh yeah, okay. I do value success, and I do want to finish a job, and I get frustrated with people when I'm impatient, and that works for us together because I get frustrated with people and I can be impatient.
Does he always have to
But
look perfect? Like when you're going out, like he wants to look perfect. His hair is great.
I will say, I think he is more of a one-to-one or a relationship 3. So it's less about, like, he still wants to make sure that he looks great, but he doesn't need to be perfect. It's more about who he's with and that they think that he looks great. So I have known through, other relationships that he's like, okay, well, if you think that I look okay and I look great to you, then I'm good. It's
Okay.
very interesting.
Well, I am married apparently to my extreme opposite, and I didn't know this. First of all, I thought he was an extrovert when I met him. Totally not the truth. He's an introvert. He's a 6, I would say 6 wing 5. I am a 7 wing 8, and we'll put stuff in the show notes. I mean, he likes supper on the table. He loves schedule. I have to I write out our schedules on a whiteboard so he knows where he's going, what he's doing. And I'm like, dinner? I don't think we need dinner. I'm not hungry. Let's eat when we're hungry. But that doesn't make sense to him. So it helped me to understand that, okay, maybe I would get some points if I have dinner, like, let's say 4 nights a week at like 6 o'clock. I mean, it's true. It
4
sounds
nights,
silly, but it's true.
There's 7 days in the week.
Well,
and it's
give
at
me
6
a
o'clock.
break.
It's
Like,
at 6 o'clock every night here. Let me just tell
well,
you.
your 6 does. My 6 is grateful if there's 4 nights a week at this point. And I'm not gonna let him talk to you either, because he'll be like, 7 nights a week? What?
There's 7
I'm
days
get-
in a week, Julie. And I like cooking for people because my passion with cooking for people, it makes people happy.
And you're a 2 on the Enneagram, which is the helper. So I'm just kind of reiterating your type, if you will.
So yeah. So
It's-
cooking for others makes people happy.
you guys bring up something too about like the relationships, and I do a whole class on the Enneagram and relationships because it becomes predictable. You can pull up, there's books and apps, the Ennea app. At the end of some of these books on Enneagram and relationships, you'll see like, here's the places where these types will probably connect, and here's the places where these types will probably find friction. And so it becomes predictable, often quite predictable, when you get a 2 with a 6 or a 2 with a 7 or a 2 with an 8, or whatever it is. You can say, oh, well, this is probably where these types are going to have some challenges going forward. And some can be more challenging than others. There's no perfect type for me, no perfect type for you. I always say healthy is a great type. So when people are healthy, they're more self-aware, and they are more concerned about getting along with people and being thoughtful. But that being said, the problems or the challenges become quite predictable between when you get two types together, for sure. Yep.
Your Enneagram relationship coaching certification is next on my list, because that is something that I personally, Brittany as a 7, would like to add to my coaching repertoire and be able to assist with that piece, because I think that is a huge connection on how my end goal is actually emotional intelligence coaching, and being able to connect the
Oh,
Enneagram
Terry.
with that,
Hello,
and being able to
Terry.
know these pieces. So I think, as we've talked about, and how I have become more obsessed about the Enneagram, is in knowing that everything is connected, as we talk about, that you aren't just a number, like Terry said, you are a person with a personality type where you can shift one way if you're unhealthy and shift another way when you're being more healthy. And it's about learning not just your partner or your spouse, but your kids and your family and the people you integrate with every day and communicate with. That makes it a huge change and requires a lot of self-awareness, which I think can be a struggle for many people.
Many. And that's the beauty of the Enneagram. It gives us the tool to understand ourselves and the people around us. And I just can't wait to learn even more from all of Dr. Tom's courses. Everything's going to be in the show notes, everything that you need to know about the Enneagram, so you can really take that deep dive. It has been a game changer, I think, for the three of us, Terry, Brittany, and I, in terms of understanding ourselves personally and professionally. Dr. Tom, I'm going to put you on the spot. This was the first question I asked, I think, in the first class. I said, where is Dr. Tom's book? Where is
Wow.
his book on the Enneagram? And I have a publishing company, so like let's chat afterwards. Of
Yes,
course I
let's
do,
do that.
right? Of course I
Yeah,
do. Of course
right.
I have a publishing company. Yeah, why
Well,
not?
we're gonna need a punch. We're gonna need a punch card, because what I heard
Yeah.
Brittany say is it's gonna be the three of us. We're gonna be like your new groupies, because
Oh,
we have
Okay.
yeah, do
so
we get a
much
punch card?
more. We have so much more to learn from you. This isn't a once and done. This is wash, rinse, repeat, wash, rinse, repeat, because you can't learn everything. And I love that you said, you're not going to get everybody, but get those like-minded people together and talking about it. But I do. I am obsessed with you and your
Yes, she is.
teachings. And stop, Julie. I mean, I really am. Like, honestly, the chart that you were just talking about, the 2 lines with the
Yeah.
arrows. I watched that. I just listened to that, and you just did it like
Yeah.
8 days ago.
Yeah.
Who's obsessed
Right.
with Dr. Tom?
Well,
Terry
and
Bales.
and I appreciate that, because I think the information is so valuable. I will say this: I've learned a ton from reading. And so when I first started the Enneagram, I just read everything, a bookshelf filled with books on the Enneagram, and I just all I could read. And then, now that I've been doing appointments with people, I'm sure I've done well over 1,000, maybe 2,000 appointments with people. When you talk to 459s, you really start to get inside that head, of the 9, of the 1, of the 2. You really start to like have all these conversations. You're listening to the people talking about the problems and the good, the bad, the ugly of every type. You learn it in a different way from all the conversations. And some of the things that are in the books apply, and some things don't apply. And so there's a lot of Thomisms that I have picked up doing coaching that I just see as like, okay, this is true. I may never read this. And that's the kind of stuff I would put in a book. The stuff that I've learned from just working with people that maybe I haven't, because do we really need another book on the Enneagram? There's so many great ones out there and there's new ones coming all the time. If I did write one, it would be on the stuff I've kind of learned the hard way on my own, like, yeah.
But you have so much to offer. And because of your YouTube presence, that is how we know you.
Yeah.
And people they do listen to you as an Enneagram expert, and they would read your book. Whether there's another new book coming out, why can't it be Dr. Tom's new book coming out?
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to get it. I mean, I'm not a huge reader, but I will listen to you all day long.
Underneath your pillow.
Underneath my pillow. I do say that. I told him the first time that I met you that you're the man underneath my pillow whispering sweet things to me.
About the Enneagram.
About the Enneagram. Right. So there's the flirt.
Then meanwhile, if you like listen to when I talk about every type, I'm brutal with every type, and maybe I'm most careful with twos because my wife watches those videos, and so I don't. But with all the types, I mean, I when people first get introduced to my channel, I'll get comments from them like, "Oh my goodness, Tom, you're so hard on fours. I don't think you even appreciate or understand us at all." And I'm like, okay, I'm hard on everybody. I mean, every type, if you want to know how great you are, study Myers-Briggs, study DISC, study Strength Finders. If you want to know how you suck, study the Enneagram. And I don't mean that, in a bad way. I just mean it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. It's like going to the gym. It doesn't feel good. When you go to the gym twice a year, you hate it both times. It doesn't feel good. And so when you study the Enneagram, if we get over the target and we're close and we have your type, it's going to be painful to you. But pain is going to produce growth. It's always going to produce growth.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I did not like hearing that 2 on the low side has a manipulative side. I did not like hearing that. I'm not a manipulative person. And when I heard that, I was like, okay, I see it. I own it. And, and you can't grow from what you don't know.
Right.
And if that's what the Enneagram has done, if it's harsh in some ways to show you a side of yourself that you're not aware of, going back to, awareness, complete awareness, then that I would rather be aware than not.
Yes. Well, it's like looking in a mirror. Is a mirror being harsh with you? It feels like it if you don't like what's in it. Yeah. And
in the morning, definitely.
Yeah. When I've gone to like companies and I talk to this table filled with all these, very impressive, intelligent people, right? And I'm sharing with them all of these types, and they took the test and they're very excited to learn something, and they have to do this because their boss told them they need to go through this training. And I'm doing, and it's like, it starts to feel kind of hot and uncomfortable in that room, because what 9 wants their boss to know that their sin is sloth? Nobody wants, it's like, stop talking, Tom, you're making me feel, or what 1 wants everybody to know their sin is anger or lust. You're looking at the boss themselves, who's an 8, and you're like, well, yeah, and Charlie's sin here is lust. Usually 8s are more okay with that because they're 8s and they just laugh at it. But 2s don't want people to know their sin is pride. 9s don't want people to know their sin is sloth. And so these can be,
and 7s are gluttony.
Gluttony, yeah. Yep. Just one more. How can I make a decision if I haven't tried them all?
Let me have one more podcast. Let me do one more thing.
So real. And it's even connecting in what you're saying. One of my favorite quotes of Beatrice Chestnut's book, The 9 Types of Leadership, that you recommended, is she actually says, what you don't know can hurt you. And it's the reality about, like you said, it's scary and it's challenging and it's hard to look at yourself in the mirror. But once you do it and you go through some of those challenges, you will become a healthier version. And it really is about growth and change. And it was, I should have always known that I was a 7. I questioned it all the time because I saw so many other pieces in different numbers. But then you talk about gluttony, and yeah, that is 100% my
How many
sin
degrees does
about
Dr. Tom have? Who's
just one
Yeah.
more. And
Yeah.
the reality is that I've become healthier in being able to say, you know what? Just because this is sitting in front of you doesn't mean this isn't the only time you'll get this. It might come back, or tomorrow you could try again. Let's say no. And I don't like saying no.
Yeah.
I
As a
love
7.
this. Thank you, Brittany Finley. Thank you, Dr. Tom LaHue, guys, and of course Terry Bales. She's like giving me a seductive look right now, flirtatious look. We gotta have fun here. We gotta have fun, right? Sevens, we gotta have fun.
Always.
Hey, you know what? When we're not chasing fun, we're free to bring it to the world.
We're
And
bringing
that's what you're doing.
fun on a silver
Bring it.
platter.
Absolutely.
So
Bring the
Terry's gonna-
joy.
Got to be able to laugh at yourself a little and bring the fun.
So
Yes.
you guys, you need to check out the show notes. Everything about Dr. Tom LaHue is in the show notes, and I love myself some Brittany Finley. She has a coaching business called Uncaged Coaching. You'll get the links in there. Terry is just, besides being a flirt, she is pampered chef phenom. I'm going to put all the links in the show notes because these people are amazing because they indulge me in my obsession with the Enneagram. Like seriously, it is a game changer. If you don't know Dr. Tom LaHue, check him out on YouTube. Take one of his classes because it's awesome. So check the show notes, guys. If
Thank
you
you,
do
guys.
anything today, thank you, Dr. Tom. If you do anything today, make sure you like, rate, and review. Share this episode with your friends. I know Terry's gonna do that. Yeah, she is. And don't forget to get obsessed with your life